Aquarius New Moon eclipse on February 17th. Let's talk about it. Aquarius is the fixed air sign of the zodiac. And as a whole, I feel like Saturnian people, but Aquarius people especially, are concerned with the social dynamics of collectives, societies, groups, organizations. So they're very much sociologists and anthropologists. They're very concerned with the mechanics of how these social structures function. So with the moon here, I feel like we're going to be looking at our subconscious conditioning around these topics, around what it means to be part of a collective, around what it means to be part of a society, and the inclusion and exclusion that people face because of that. I think the big thing here is like the outsider's insight, because with Aquarius and with Saturn in general, we have these really polarized highlights around what it means to be part of the in crowd and what it means to be an alien or a foreigner or an outsider, like what we've been seeing with all the ramping up of stuff around ICE and migrants in the USA, and how blatantly the institution, in this case the government, is fighting to keep these people out, and how they are separating collectives, splintering them and deconstructing them and causing their death, and causing the death of a society, our society, at a social level, because we are losing a huge part of what makes our society, Hispanic Americans. And excuse me, I think what's really important here with Aquarius is this 30,000 foot view that it provides. It's really great at zooming out and looking at all the moving pieces. It's a sociologist. It's a sociological sign. And looking at how each human being fits in to the collective. And a danger that I think that we might run into with that kind of mentality is going only for efficiency in how we fit in to society, how each human being can just turn into a cog in a machine and just be given a number or be part of a statistic, as opposed to who they are as a person. And absolutely, yes, like we all need society to run smoothly so we can have a fruitful life. There's so much talk of individualism in our culture today, of just fend for yourself and all that. But really, we are a community. And if we were to function like a community, what would that look like? And when we remember how everything is interconnected, we are a network, and thus part of a collective network and nervous system, things start looking much more human as opposed to machine-like. But Aquarius being so concerned with wanting that, having a utopian mindset, like progressing forward to a golden age, it could go the route of yes, we are all part of this collective, and how can we work together to achieve this collective liberation and revolution, especially because this moon is like in almost an exact square to Uranus and Taurus. So talk of revolution and talk of freedom, um, sudden shakeups and breakthroughs uh, of these social structures are definitely in the air right now. And y'all know I don't like to be a sensationalist, but I just think that this topic is very, very prevalent right now. And so we go through that of like, we want to achieve this utopian ideal, and by remembering how we're all humans and we fit into this collective, we can achieve that. Or it might go like, it might swing to the other side, the pendulum might swing to the other side and be like, this is all wrong, and so it all must be completely destroyed, and but like to the point where nothing is left to rebuild from. And so instead of a utopia, we create a dystopia. And I think that collective liberation starts at an individual level. There's not in my 31 long years of living, I haven't seen an example of society or cultures or the world at large suddenly deciding to put aside their differences and put aside their quarrels and their arguments and turn to their neighbor and shake their hand. That doesn't happen, unfortunately. So liberation and revolution starts at the individual and internal level. There's this line from I can't remember. It's a song. I can't remember the name, but it says the revolution will not be televised, and that is because the revolution starts in here and in here. Because we have to know ourselves and know who we are to enact a revolution. When we sit with ourselves in solitude and look at the data of our mind, of our senses, that is what Saturn wants. Saturn asks us to meditate. That's meditation. That's contemplation. And when we look at the data of our senses and do not allow ourselves to be carried away by it, and do not allow ourselves to be distracted by it, be inundated with information, and pulled and pushed every which way to where we're just perpetually distracted with what is happening externally, that we don't look at what's happening internally. And so I think that is very important right now, because there are things that are happening in the world that seem just so inhuman, especially with the release of the Epstein files. There's people that are in disbelief, like, how can this be happening? How can this be human beings that are happening? Because human beings forget also the spark of life that burns within every single living thing. And when we remember the spark of life that burns inside all of us, we see our common humanity. And I think that's what we're being asked to do. Look deeply and see our common humanity. And not ostracize like, oh, one, sorry, I'm moving some stuff around. I got upset. When we see that our body and our mind are tools for collective liberation, starting at an individual level, that one is not better than the other. Like our mind is not better and our body is not useless and gross. We need both to be able to tap into our humanity. Very important. So we have to recognize our own patterns of self-undoing and self-sabotage, so that maybe we can start helping others do the same. This moon is taking place in the third decan of Aquarius, which corresponds to the Seven of Swords. And again, this just reminds us how our minds can be carried away and distracted. And if we don't use our mind as a tool for examination, the mind will use us. So That's what I got. Happy Aquarius New Moon eclipse.